Okay, class. So for this video, we'll be discussing initial value problems with unit step function. So since alam na natin kung paano mag-solve ng Laplace transform ng unit step function, we can now find the particular solution of initial value problems na may unit step function using Laplace transform. So ang gagawin natin dito is we will use the similar process that we do in the previous chapter, which is solving differential equations using Laplace transform. So, hindi ko na i-discuss kung paano yung process since we already know or we have already discussed that in the previous video. So, problem na tayo agad. So, ito tayo. We have number 1, find the Laplace transform of the following function. We have y double prime plus 3y prime plus 2y is equal to h of t and y of 0 is equal to 0. Y prime of 0 is equal to 1. And yung h of t natin is 0 when t is less than 0, 1 when t is greater than 0 but greater than 1, less than 1, and t is greater than 1. So yan, so let's solve. So first step naman ito class, similar pa rin nung last time, we need to find the Laplace transform of the equation. So kunin muna natin yung left side, yung y double prime plus 3y prime plus 2y. So, applying the table of Laplace transform, we have the Laplace of y double prime, that is s squared plus y of s minus s times y of 0 minus y prime of 0. But we know that y of 0 is equal to 0. So, therefore, this will be 0. Matitira na lang is that s squared times y of s minus 1. That is our Laplace of y double prime. Next, we have the Laplace of 3y prime. And that is 3 times s times y of s minus y of 0. And y of 0, again, this is 0. So, we will arrive at Laplace of 3y prime is equal to 3s times y of s. And lastly, the Laplace of 2y, this is just equal to 2 times y of s. Now, we have the Laplace transforms of the left side ng equation, yung nasa right naman. Yung right side natin is a unit step function. So before we take the Laplace, express muna natin siya into a function, a single function. So remember that this is a rectangular pulse. That's why we can express it in this way. We take the Laplace transform of, the first is u of t, and then next is the Laplace transform of u of t minus 1. Laplace transform of u of t natin is just 1 over s, and then the Laplace transform of u of t minus 1, that is just e raised to negative s over s. So, nakabase lahat yan sa Laplace transform table natin. So, nakuha na natin yung Laplace transform natin. So, i-substitute natin sa equation. We will have s squared times y of s minus 1. This is the Laplace of y double prime. Plus 3s times y of s. This is the Laplace of 3y prime. Plus 2y of s. This is the Laplace of 2y. Equal to 1 over s, that's the Laplace of u of t, minus e raised to negative s over s, that's the Laplace of u of t minus 1. Pagsama-samahin natin lahat ng 1 of s, sa transpose natin si negative 1, tapos factor out natin si y of s dito, sa mga terms na to, we will arrive at y of s times s squared plus 3s plus 2 is equal to 1 plus 1 over s minus e raised to negative s over s. So before we proceed, we know that we will eventually have to get the inverse Laplace transform of the following function. Whenever simplifying the equation, we must try to express in a manner where we can take its inverse Laplace transform. So the usual case that we separate those with those terms with e. Thus, for the right side of the equation, let us separate the term e raised to negative s over s to 1 plus 1 over s. Adding 1 plus 1 over s, we will have, so ang ginawa nating class, di ba ang gusto nating mangyari kapag eventually, we will do inverse Laplace. So, ang gusto nating mag-inverse Laplace transform, ang gusto nating mangyari ay yung function natin is ready, kamukha siya nung mga nasa table of Laplace transform natin. So, yun yung gusto natin mangyari. So, para mangyari yun, wag nating gawin na pagsamasamahin yung mga terms kung saan magkakaroon tayo ng complicated na mga terms na kailangan natin silang paghiwa-hiwalayin. So in this case, sa right side ng equation, we have 1 plus 1 over s minus e raised to negative s over s. So with our experience in using Laplace, the Laplace transform table, alam natin na kapag may mga e, hindi yan ganun kadaling kunan yung inverse Laplace natin. So ang gawin natin class, ihiwalay natin siya. So iwalay natin tong part na to dito sa 1 plus 1 over s natin. So pinagsama natin ngayon siya, tapos nakahiwala yung e raised to negative s of s. So we will arrive class an equation that is y of s times s squared plus 3s plus 2 is equal to s plus 1 over s minus e raised to negative s over s. So pinagsama natin yung 1 saka 1 over s. Next is divide the equation para y of s na lang yung makuha. We will have y of s is equal to s plus 1 over s times s squared plus 3s plus 2 minus e raised to negative s over s times s squared plus 3s plus 2. So that is already our y of s. So if we want to get our y of t, we just need to get the inverse Laplace transform. Now, what we can do is also factor out s squared plus 3s to 2 to simplify. We will have s plus 1 over s times s plus 1 times s plus 2 minus e raised to negative s over s times s plus 1 times s plus 2. Now, kunin na lang natin ngayong class yung Laplace transform nitong mga equation na to. So, maka-cancel to. Ayan lang yung matitira. Now, we take the inverse Laplace transform. So, if we take the inverse Laplace transform, we will arrive at this expression, which is the inverse Laplace of y of s is equal to the inverse Laplace of the first term, which is 1 over s times s plus 2 minus the inverse Laplace of e raised to negative s over s times s plus 1 times s plus 2. Kunin muna natin yung inverse Laplace ng ito. Kunin muna natin yung inverse Laplace transform ng 1 over s plus 2. So to do this, we need to express this as partial fractions. So we will have 1 over s times s plus 2 that is equal to a over s plus b over s plus 2. So multiplying, we will have an equation 1 is equal to a times s plus 2 plus bs. So hanapin natin yung value ng a at ng b. Let's do that. Gawin natin s muna is equal to 0. Doing so, we will have 1 is equal to 2a plus b times 0. So, itong b times 0 will just be equal to 0. So, we'll have 1 over 2a. A natin ngayon is equal to 1/2. Next, try to find the value of b. So, let's use s is equal to negative 2 para maging 0 yung nakamultiply sa a. And we will arrive at b is equal to negative 1/2. So, therefore, ang equation natin is we have 1 over 2 times the Laplace transform of negative 1 over s minus 1 over 2 times the inverse Laplace of 1 over s plus 2. So, sinubstitute na natin siya. So, we just get the Laplace transform. Madali na yung makuha. 1 over s based from the table. The Laplace is just 1. The Laplace of 1 over s plus 2, that is e raised to negative 2t. So, this is now our Laplace transform of this. Ito pa lang. So, ibig sabihin, we need to get the Laplace transform pa nito. So, to do that, we have the inverse Laplace of e raised to negative s over s times s plus 1 times s plus 2. Alisin muna natin si e of negative s. So, ilabas natin siya para ang kukuha na natin ng Laplace is Laplace of 1 over s times s plus 1 times s plus 2 times e raised to negative s. So, if we will look at this is an equation that is multiplied to e of as, where ang a natin in this case is 1. So, we can use a dime displacement theorem from our table, which is ito siya. So, that is Laplace of f of t minus a minus u of t minus a is equal to e raised to negative as times g of s. So, yun lang yung gagamitin natin. Now, since e of negative s, we can see that a natin is 1. Thus, the inverse Laplace transform of this equation is g of t minus 1 times u of t minus 1. So, ngayon, yan ngayong class yung Laplace transform natin. Ay, inverse Laplace transform natin. Where g of s natin class is equal to 1 over s times s plus 1 times s plus 2. So, ang kailangan natin is, we need to get ngayon g of t para makuha natin yung g of t minus 1. So, u of t minus 1 is our unit step function. Now, all we need to do is find g of t minus 1. So, to do that, hanapin muna natin si g of t. And we can use g of t by finding the inverse Laplace of g of s. So, again, magpa-partial fractions na naman tayo. So, using partial fractions, we will have 1 over s times s plus 1 times s plus 2. And that is equal to as plus b over s plus 2 plus c over s plus 1. Multiplying the whole equation by s times s plus 1 over s plus 2, we will have 1 is equal to a s plus 2 s plus 1 times bs times s plus 1 plus cs times s plus 2. Now, we will find the values of a, b, and c. So, for to get letter A, let's use s is equal to 0. So we will have 1 is equal to 0 plus 2 times 0 plus 1 plus b times 0 times 0 plus 1 plus c times 0 times 0 plus 2. So itong mga to, this will be 0. Matitira na lang is a is equal to 2a, 1 is equal to 2a, which a natin will be then 1 half. Next, let's try it when s is equal to negative 1. So, ang makakancel naman dito, class, is yung a natin na to. This will be 0. Also, itong b. So, makukuha natin yung value ng c. So, we will have c times negative 1 times positive 1. So, we will have c is equal to negative 1. Lastly, for letter b, let's use s is equal to negative 2. So, in this case, makaka-cancel to kasi magkaka-0 dyan. Makaka-cancel din to. Ang matitira na lang ay b. So, we will have b minus 2 times negative 2 plus 1. So, that's negative 1. So, we'll have 2b. So, 1 is equal to 2b makuha natin. Therefore, b is equal to 1 half. So, therefore, yung equation natin will be yung 1 over s times s plus 1 natin times s plus 2 is equal to 1 half over s plus 1 half over s plus 2 minus 1 over s plus 1. We can now get the Laplace transform. Their Laplace transform class is, for this one, it's just 1 half plus, this is 1 half e raised to negative 2t minus e raised to negative 1. So, nakuha natin to lahat using the Laplace transform table. Now, nakuha natin yung g of t, we can now substitute to our time displacement theorem. So, we will arrive class at, now, first pala, kailangan makuha natin is t minus 1 instead of g of t. So, to get g of t minus 1, maglagay lang tayo ng minus 1 sa mga t natin. So, we'll have g of t minus 1 is equal to 1 half plus 1 half e raised to negative 2 minus 1 minus e raised to negative t minus 1. Simplify natin yan. We will have 1 half plus 1 half e raised to 1 minus 2t minus e raised to 1 minus t. This is now our particular solution. We have to substitute this g of t dito sa nakuha natin kanina. Remember time displacement theorem. That's e raised to negative s times g of s. This is the inverse Laplace of this one is equal to g of t minus 1 times u of t minus 1. So, substituting that to the equation, actually, a pala. A. And just in this case, ang a natin is 1. That's why, ang ating particular solution will be y of t is equal to 1 half minus 1 half e raised to negative 2t minus 1 over 2 plus 1 over 2 e raised to 1 minus 2t minus e raised to 1 minus 2t times u of t minus 1. So, that is our Laplace transform. So, from this one, inverse Laplace pala. So, from ayan, mali pa rin. Kulang pa rin ako ng pag-back. Ayan. So, nakuha na natin class yung Laplace transform nitong y of s natin. And that is, hindi pa rin ako mapindot. And that is, ito. So, pinagdugtong na lang natin siya. Y of t natin is, ito. Ayan. So, that is our particular solution. So, kung napansin, similar lang talaga siya dun sa process natin sa chapter 5, which is taking taking or finding the particular solution of IVPs using Laplace transform. So, similar lang siya. Ano lang yung different? Different is, instead of using simple na function, we are taking the Laplace of unit step functions. Ayan. Another problem, let us find the Laplace transform daw of y double prime minus y is equal to 2 times u of t minus u of t minus 1 when y of 0 is 0 and y prime of 0 is also 0. So that is what is being asked in this problem. So in this problem, given agad, naka-express na agad siya as a single expression yung ating u of t. So hindi na siya naka-sub-functions. So mas mababawasan yung ano natin dito, steps. Kumbaga, so taking the Laplace transform of the left side muna ng equation, we'll have the Laplace transform of y double prime, that is s squared plus y of s minus s times y of 0 minus y prime of 0. Initial conditions, y of 0 is 0, so 0 na yan. And y prime of 0 is also 0. So we will arrive at the Laplace of y double prime is equal to s squared plus y of s. Next, Laplace of y, that's just simply the Laplace of negative y, it's just negative y of s. Now we take the Laplace transform class of the unit step function. Unit step function natin is 2 u of t minus u of t minus 1. So taking the Laplace transform, this is very obvious. Direkta sa table natin, we will have 2 over s minus 2e raised to negative s over s. That is our Laplace transform. Substitute, we will have s squared times y of s minus y of s is equal to 2 over s minus 2e raised to negative s over s. So, ihiwalay natin si y of s. So, we will arrive at y of s times s squared minus 1 is equal to 2 over s minus 2e raised to negative s over s. Divide natin yung equation, whole equation, by s squared minus 1. We will arrive at y of s is equal to 2 over s times s squared plus 1 minus 2e raised to negative s over s times s squared plus 1. Factor out natin, s squared plus 1, that is s plus 1 and s minus 1. So, ito na ngayon yung equation natin. Y of s is equal to 2 over s times s plus 1 times s minus 1 minus 2e raised to negative s over s times s plus 1 times s minus 1. So this is already actually particular solution na yan. However, that is in the S space. So we need to take the inverse Laplace transform para instead of y of s, ang makuha natin is y of t. So taking the inverse Laplace transform, so meron tayong dalawang term. That's 2 over s times s plus 1 times s minus 1 and 2e raised to negative s over s times s plus 1 times s minus 1. So, doon muna tayo sa unang term. The Laplace transform of the inverse Laplace transform of 2 over s times s minus 1 times s plus 1. So, we use partial fractions dito. So, at this point, class, you may pause the video and try to solve this on your own. Ayan, so ang Laplace transform natin will be 2 over s times s minus 1 times s plus 1 is equal to a over s plus b over s minus 1 plus c over s plus 1. Multiplying the whole equation by the denominator of the left side, we will arrive at 2 is equal to a times s minus 1 times s plus 1 plus b s times s plus 1 plus cs times s minus 1. Finding the values of a, b, and c, let's try when s is equal to 0. So, magiging 0 yung terms na to. So, matitira na lang is that a is equal to negative 2. Next, let's try s is equal to 1. So, kung ganun yung case, matatanggal tong may a, itong lahat lang may s minus 1. So, matatanggal to. And matatanggal din yung C. Makuha natin yung B. So, B natin will just be equal to 1. And lastly, we have when S is equal to negative 1. So, this will be 0. This will also be 0. We will arrive at C is equal to positive 1. Substituting that to our partial fraction equation, we will have negative 2 over S plus 1 over S plus 1 plus 1 over S minus 1. We can now take the Laplace transform or the inverse Laplace. We'll have the inverse Laplace of 1 over S, that's negative 2. Inverse Laplace of negative 2, 1 over S. So inverse Laplace of 1 over S plus 1, that is e raised to negative t. And Laplace transform of 1 over S minus 1 is e raised to t. Next, yung isa pa. We already have the inverse Laplace of the first term. We need to get the inverse Laplace of the second term. So, ganun din yung gagawin natin dito. Ilalabas natin yung e raised to negative s para pwede tayo mag-apply ng time displacement theorem. So, therefore, nahiwalay natin siya. We have e raised to negative s where ng a natin is, again, 1. So, kung meron na tayong ganito, we can express the inverse Laplace of this expression as u of t minus 1 times g of t minus 1. But we have to find g of t in order for us to get g of t minus 1. So, to find g of t, so we need to get the inverse Laplace of our g of s. In this case, ang g of s natin is this term. So, we need to take the Laplace transform of that term. So, solving for t, solving for gt, so from the previous computation, di na natin kailangan isolve, no? Kasi, take note, this is exactly the same na g of s. So, therefore, ang Laplace transform natin ng g of s na to, g of t natin is also this one. So, from the previous equation, our g of t will be negative 2 plus e raised to negative t plus t. Now, solving for g of t minus 1, palitan lang natin lahat ng t minus 1. We will have g of t minus 1 is equal to negative 2 plus e raised to negative t minus 1 plus e raised to t minus 1. And that is equal to g of t minus 1 is equal to negative 2 plus e raised to 1 minus t plus e raised to t minus 1. We substitute this. We now have our final answer, and that is y of t is equal to negative 2 plus e raised to negative t plus e raised to t minus negative 2 plus e raised to 1 minus t plus e raised to t minus 1 times u of t minus 1. So that is now our particular solution. Yan. So that is it for this chapter.